Everyone who is sick and tired of stupidly inflated New Zealand house prices needs to watch this clip. Now, there is a link to the whole interview in the description. This is the chief property economist for Cotality, which was formerly known as CoreLogic, so listen carefully to what he is about to say.
Uncertainty is really just for the investors, right? You mentioned concern about a possible capital gains tax, of course, and the risk of interest deductibility being phased out again. Which of those do you think worries investors more?
Yeah, well, I mean, from an investor's perspective, both of them. But in terms of which worries them more, it's definitely the interest deductibility. But in terms of which worries them more, it's definitely the interest deductibility. But in terms of which worries them more, it's definitely the interest deductibility. To be fair, I haven't really heard any of the political parties really talking about it, but of course we know that it was phased out under the previous Labor government, so you'd have to think there's a reasonable chance they'll do something similar again. I mean, I guess we're still waiting for that announcement, but yeah, it's certainly the stronger concern for investors because that's a cash flow thing. It's a permanent loss of income. You're paying more tax. And so that really, I guess, sort of hits to the heart of property investment. I mean, paying more tax is certainly a concern for property investors. So that's the bigger concern. We don't know if it'll be phased out again. Of course, National might win the election and you know, it'll fade into the background, but certainly a concern for investors right now. And I suspect they're just pulling back because they're wary of that, just waiting to see how things play out.
So now you know why Luxon was so keen to reintroduce the billions of dollars worth of tax breaks for landlords when he got into power, even though the country's debt pile was already enormous at the time. Now, coincidentally, around the time that Luxon got into power, the drop in house prices suddenly stopped. And what we have had since is a subdued slide sideways in house prices. Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out why, does it? And look at this article from just before the last election. Property industry tops political donations. An RNZ analysis of political donations since 2021 shows people involved in the property industry are giving the most, and almost all of it's going to National, ACT and New Zealand First. Now, this disappoints me because I do like some New Zealand First policies, but perhaps this explains this latest stupid idea from Shane Jones. It says New Zealand First is considering a Crown co-investment election policy for first home buyers that Shane Jones says would give first home buyers access to mortgage interest rates cheaper than what the Aussie-owned banks are charging. But the problem is, Shane, we're not all stupid. It's just a cynical and ugly thing that you've done here. Pretending that you are helping first home buyers whilst obviously trying to put a floor under house prices is not good. You need to do better, mate, because nobody is fooled. For me, the principal destroyer of New Zealand is the housing Ponzi, and it has been for many years now, and it's dragging the country down. It really is time that it's crushed, and every party who actually cares about New Zealand and does put New Zealand first knows this, because it is and has been a tool used to enrich the few at the expense of the many for far too long. A house should be a home where a family can flourish and not just an investment tool for the lucky few. Now, we know that the rich elites obviously want the good times to continue, even if it means that all young Kiwis give up all hope and move to Australia. They obviously think that young Kiwis can just be replaced. Just look at this latest trade deal. The focus is more on the movement of people into New Zealand than actual trade. And if you want to see what removing tax breaks from landlords has just done in Australia, take a look.
Okay, the property market is recording its worst auction clearance rates in nearly a decade, dropping below 50% this weekend.
Now, for more on this, we're joined by Azura Financial Director Tom Hawley. Tom,
morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming in. It's looking like carnage out there. Just how bad was it?
Yeah, it is. So I think they recorded around the 50% mark, but we've had about 9 weeks of clearance rates below 60% or around 50%. They often get revised down during the week, so you can have a look at the clearance rates there. But it's been a run sort of similar to what we've seen, during COVID, or there was a really bad run like this in 2018. So it's sort of a crisis level run of low clearance rates. The budget came out in mid-May, and then we've had a sort of rapid loss of confidence.
Do you think we're seeing a correction now, or is this a structural change in conditions?
Oh no, I think well and truly this is a correction. I think the property market does move off momentum, and right now the momentum is down. I think the data is very delayed, which is why the June data didn't look too bad. But when the sales from June come through in the data, which will be when they settle in the next couple of months, I think the true nature of the market will sort of be revealed. But I think almost every major bank, Domain and REA, are all saying the property market is expected to be lower by the end of the year, and next year will potentially be a tough year. So I think we are genuinely, in a correction at the moment, which is natural. All markets, have corrections. They don't just go up every single year. And, I think we can expect that the market will continue to correct until they cut rates potentially. So, when's that going to be? If I had a crystal ball, I'd love to tell you.
Shifting sands, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Tom.
That change has happened almost overnight as soon as the tax changes were introduced. So tax breaks for landlords obviously need to go. And I will get many comments on this video saying, yes, but it's a business just like any other. But landlording is not a business like any other, is it? Other businesses don't get the accommodation supplement, which also costs the New Zealand taxpayer over $2 billion each year. Although they don't like to admit it, these payments go to the landlord from the taxpayer via the tenant, and they artificially make rents higher than they should be. Without this top-up, rents would drop across the board. It's just another taxpayer-funded support used to keep the landlords on top. And what normal business's entire business model is to keep ordinary Kiwis from owning their own home by using tax benefits to buy up all the properties to rent back to them. Without these tax breaks and the accommodation supplements, it would be game over for the Ponzi. So let's crack on with it. Come on, New Zealand political parties. If you are serious about easing the cost of living, if you are serious about stopping young Kiwis leaving to Australia, and if you are serious about fighting inequality, then make the first move. Show us how much you care. Vow to put a stop to interest deductibility of existing properties right now. If you want, you can keep it in place for new builds because that will help increase the stock and put more downward pressure on house prices. But there is absolutely no justification in this day and age to make a young taxpayer on minimum wage have his or her tax used to replace the tax lost from some mega landlord who is saving tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars each year through these tax breaks. Enough is enough. So yes, guys, if you agree with this message, I think this would be an important one to share and give a thumbs up to. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers for that.